Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm Ling Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's stories. San Francisco's new district attorney went on a firing spree. We'll take a look at one example of who she removed and how many people are now out of the office. A former White House political strategist to talk about why Californians aren't voting. Believers in a peaceful meditation practice held a Candlelight Vigil on Monday night. It was to honor those who had lost their lives to an oppressive regime. Prosecutors plan to charge a 20-year-old Los Angeles man in connection with 3 murders across Southern California. That's after a deadly crime spree last week at a half-dozen 7-Elevens and a donut shop.
Malik Pat is a stone-cold serial killer. There's no other way to describe him. He executed innocent people and he shot others. And his behavior and the crime spree he engaged in is literally, I just got chills up my own spine. It's chilling.
Authorities believe 44-year-old Jason Payne accompanied Malik Pat in a crime spree, but without the direct involvement in the most serious of the crimes. The killings started with the fatal shooting of a homeless man in Los Angeles on July 9th that was followed on July 11th by the deaths of a 7-Eleven clerk and a man who intervened in a robbery in a 7-Eleven parking lot. 3 others were shot and wounded on that day, one of whom remains gravely injured. The July 11th robberies occurred within 5 hours in San Bernardino, Orange, and Riverside counties. The intensive manhunt followed that resulted in the arrests of the 2 men in Los Angeles on Friday. Pat faces a slew of charges that, if convicted, could result in a death penalty or life sentence without the possibility of parole. San Francisco's new district attorney has been on a firing spree after her predecessor was recalled.
The new district attorney in San Francisco has fired at least 15 employees. Brooke Jenkins, the San Francisco DA, said in a statement last week that she made difficult but important changes to her management team and staff. She cited her promise to the public of restoring accountability and consequences to criminal justice. Among those who were fired was former San Francisco managing attorney Arcelia Hurtado, who headed the city's Innocence Commission. Hurtado expressed her disappointment on Twitter, writing, "After over 2 years of tireless and devoted service to the city and county of San Francisco, I was unceremoniously fired without cause via phone by the mayor's appointed DA." She included her ethnicity and sexual orientation in the tweet. Brooks' predecessor, Chesa Boudin, was recalled on June 7th amid criticism of a citywide surge in crime, homelessness, and drug usage in public. Daniel Hall, NTD News, California.
Scrutiny continues to mount over Nancy Pelosi's husband's purchase of semiconductor stocks right before Congress moved to boost industry. And today, the House Speaker's office responded to criticism over insider trading. Her spokesman, Drew Hamill, told the news outlets on Monday that the Speaker does not own any stocks and, quote, has no prior knowledge or subsequent involvement in any transactions by her husband. The controversy comes as a disclosure shows Paul Pelosi bought millions of dollars worth of stock in a computer chip company, and he did it right as the Congress is slated to vote on a big subsidy to the industry this week. Meanwhile, in a Monday interview with Fox, Republican Representative James Comer called Nancy Pelosi, quote, the ultimate insider, noting that her husband has made other controversial stock purchases before. The turnout of this year's California primary election was roughly 33% as of June 27th, the lowest it has been in 8 years. One expert explains what is keeping Californians from voting and what the result of this election cycle means.
Craig Kashishian, a political and polling expert, told California insiders CMAC Korami that midterm and non-presidential elections generally have a lower voter turnout than general presidential elections.
2 exceptions, 2008 in the presidential election cycle when Barack Obama was running, very high turnout, 60+%. Also, 2016 showed a high turnout, and ironically, the last election had a nice turnout because of COVID restrictions that allowed people to vote by mail with frequency.
For those who think that their vote doesn't matter and think that one party, in this case the Democratic Party, will dominate anyway, Kashishian believes that's false. He says voting on a local level makes a difference.
In local elections, congressional elections, Republicans can make a difference, and they do make a difference. So what we've seen here, for example, in the last cycle, 2 Republican congresspeople from Orange County won back their districts from Democrats by eager participation in a presidential year, which is actually very odd and a very difficult stunt to pull off. But Michelle Steele did it. She clawed back a seat for the Republicans in her district, and Young Kim did it in her district.
Kashishian also pointed out that voter motivation comes from the party that has been doing well, leading people to vote more confidently for their party.
The Democrats are exceptionally motivated when Barack Obama was running for president. They were exceptionally motivated in 2018 when they saw the chance to take back Congress. Their turnout was high. Republicans, on the other hand, were depressed. Now, in 2022, Republicans see a chance to take back the House, so a lot of Republican voters are motivated to come out and support the ticket.
The principle applies to smaller local offices too.
As they vote for their congressperson, let's say in San Clemente or in Newport Beach or in Irvine, as they're voting, they'll just tick off the boxes of other offices in their district, whether it be for school board or city council. So a rising political tide basically lifts all boats, especially with the party that has the chance to recapture power.
In terms of voting for individual self-interest and well-being, Kashishian says people will vote for whoever fulfills those needs, regardless of party affiliation.
I think people are now very conscious of their own safety. They're very conscious about being compromised in their own homes. They're very conscious of their kids being victimized by criminals. So I think the motivation now to vote is stronger than ever before. I think you'll be seeing a very robust turnout in the fall.
Kashishian says voters do not need to feel too discouraged if the person they voted for does not meet their expectations. American voters do not expect their politicians to deliver 100%, but they should meet most of their expectations.
To watch the full program, find California Insider on YouTube or Epic TV on the Epic Times website. On Monday evening, Candlelight lit up a consulate in Los Angeles, but it wasn't to honor a country. It was to remember those who have fallen to its ruling party. NTD's Jackie Reels was there to hear from victims of persecution, who are also believers of a peaceful meditation practice known as Falun Gong.
Falun Gong practitioners from Southern California are holding a candlelight vigil near the Chinese consulate in Los Angeles. It's to commemorate the deaths of their fellow practitioners who have passed away since the persecution began on July 20th, 1999. Falun Gong is a spiritual practice that was introduced to the public in China in 1992. In less than 10 years, it was estimated to have 100 million followers. Its incredible popularity was one of the main reasons the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, began attacking the practice.
I think the communist regime is really a totalitarian regime. This such an evil regime cannot tolerate any groups independent of its control. Just because there's so many people practicing Falun Gong, so the communist regime feel that they didn't have the control, so they start the persecution. So that's just the nature of such a evil totalitarian regime.
Wu said holding the candlelight vigil is to remember their fellow practitioners who have lost their lives from the CCP's persecution.
So this persecution is really very, very evil and very brutal. So I want you to be aware of this persecution, to know that even after 23 years, the persecution is still going on. It causes a lot of hardship and disasters, for those people. So therefore, I hope that you can join us to stop the persecution by telling the persecutions to other people, and also maybe if you can try to contact your congressman and other government officials to urge them to act to help us to stop the persecution.
Falun Gong practitioners at the Vigil said they hope by raising awareness about these human rights violations, more countries will stand up against the CCP's atrocities. Jackie Rios, NTD News, Los Angeles.
We are going to take a short break, but here's a look at what we got for you when we come back. Truck drivers slowed traffic at the Oakland Seaport on Monday while protesting a California law that makes it more difficult for independent contractors to work. Locals in Mountain View got a taste of high-tech gadgets on Tuesday. Entrepreneurs showed us what Silicon Valley has to offer. 3 orphaned bear cubs were rescued in Southern California after their mothers died. They will be released back into the wild when they're older. That and more on California Today. Truck drivers hindered traffic at the Oakland Seaport on Monday. They gathered to protest a California law that makes it harder for independent contractors to transport goods. The rule could limit labor at the state's already clogged seaports, threatening to worsen the nation's supply chain woes. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
The trucking disruptions come as unions and West Coast port employers are negotiating a labor contract. The law is known as AB5, or the gig worker law, and sets tougher standards for classifying workers as independent contractors.
I'm worried because it's make you more responsible for everything that's going on with your truck and the cargo you're hauling. Now they want to make you responsible for everything, the equipment and all the containers we pull out from the port.
Independent truckers now operate under the authority and insurance of companies that hire them. Under the law, they would have to take on the hefty costs and red tape themselves.
That will increase our costs and, not just costs, and it takes a lot of hassle. We need to hire people to, help us do all the paperwork.
Legal challenges kept the law from going into effect in 2020. But the Supreme Court last month denied a California Trucking Association petition, claiming the law is blocked by federal regulations. An injunction that put the law on hold could be lifted soon.
Not just easy to go into the terminal. You have to go in there and pick up the load. You have to set up the appointment. You have to set up all the pickups, all the returns. What if you run into a trouble going in to return your container?
As part of the Monday protest, more than 100 drivers and small trucking company operators opposed to the law swarmed 2 terminal gates in the Port of Oakland. And last week, port truckers in Los Angeles picketed gates and snarled roadways at the nation's busiest seaport complex. About 40% of U.S. imports and 25% of exports run through the Los Angeles and Long Beach ports. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
An illegal immigrant was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison after repeatedly targeting and robbing Postal Service employees. The ruling comes after he pleaded guilty to the crimes that, quote, traumatized and forever impacted his victims.
An illegal immigrant from Nicaragua was sentenced Wednesday for robbing 5 U.S. Postal Service employees. 22-year-old Elvin Antonio Rodriguez will serve 11 years in federal prison and pay close to $3,000 in restitution to the USPS and 2 victims. Rodriguez illegally resided in various locations in the San Fernando Valley. From April to May of 2021, he robbed 5 USPS employees in Encino, North Hills, Van Nuys, and West Los Angeles in a 2-week span. Rodriguez held his victims at gunpoint and took their personal belongings, including cell phones, credit cards, and keys to their USPS trucks. He then charged the stolen credit cards to purchase various items. According to the Department of Justice, Rodriguez caused a loss of nearly $2,000 to USPS and over $1,000 total to the victims. He also fired his handgun so close to a victim that it caused a ruptured eardrum. Rodriguez has been in federal custody since May of 2021. He pleaded guilty in March to 3 counts of robbery of mail and property of the United States and 1 count of aggravated identity theft. The prosecutors wrote in a sentencing memorandum that Rodriguez's victims remain traumatized and forever impacted by the crimes.
A Nascar driver and three-time USAC champion was fatally stabbed over the weekend. The suspect, identified as a homeless transient, was later shot dead by police.
37-year-old NASCAR driver Bobby East was fatally stabbed at a Westminster gas station in Orange County last Friday night. Responding officers found East suffering from a serious stab wound in the chest and performed life-saving measures. He was transported to a local trauma center where he died from his injury. Officers identified the suspect as Trent William Millsap, a 27-year-old homeless transient who was wanted on parole violation. Commander Kevin McCormick said that Millsap was identified at an Anaheim apartment where he was later killed by police after he became confrontational. According to Westminster Police, during the service of the warrant, the West County SWAT team encountered Millsap. He became confrontational with officers and a police canine unit was deployed. Subsequently, an officer-involved shooting occurred. Millsap was pronounced dead at a local medical center. East was a native of Torrance and raced on the NASCAR, U.S. Auto Club, and Automobile Racing Club of America circuits. NASCAR released a statement saying NASCAR is saddened to learn of the tragic death of Bobby East. We extend our deepest and heartfelt condolences to the families and friends of Bobby, a true racer. Police are asking anyone with information regarding the stabbing to call them at 714-548-3212. Daniel Hall, NTD News, California.
With so many tech companies in Silicon Valley, they're naturally going to show off what they have got to offer. And that's exactly what they did this year for the City of Mountain View's annual tech showcasing event. NTD's David Lamb went to see what was on display.
We're in the city of Mountain View, and this is the 7th annual technology showcase. And locals and families got together to get a sneak peek at the new technology from Silicon Valley. On Tuesday, the City of Mountain View and its Chamber of Commerce featured a family-friendly technology fair. Guests interacted with products such as autonomous vehicles, a NASA satellite, 3D printing, and a robot that can shoot hoops.
As many people know, Mountain View is a center of innovation. We have a number of companies that are world-renowned, like Google and LinkedIn and Intuit and so on, but we also have hundreds of small startups.
There's about 20 exhibitors, and Katz says he expected about 500 guests to stop by.
And this is an opportunity for both our large companies and our small companies to showcase what they're doing and to really have a better connection with our local community.
There are a lot of companies that people don't know about. The city wants to promote innovation and connect businesses with the Mountain View community, all in its backyard.
As we've seen a change in the economy, we noticed this back in the dot-com bust. A lot of people start to transition and want to be entrepreneurs.
And some young entrepreneurs at a local high school put together a ball shooting robot. It took 6 weeks to put together for a world competition.
Like everything you see there is, most of that is made during that 6-week period.
They earned top 10 out of 3,000 teams in the world for their creation. It can scoop up rubber balls and launch them into the air, either by code or human operation.
I love the entrepreneurship outreach aspect of the team, what an impact you can make on other people, especially as a returning team.
It sort of brings you into the professional world before you can get into it.
Mountain View is home to some of the most well-known tech giants, as well as a NASA facility.
And this is 1-to-1 scale, so this is the actual size of the spacecraft. And just like computers are getting smaller and faster, the same thing's happening with satellites these days.
The engineer says they're pushing the boundaries of how small and powerful satellites can get. The city representatives hope they can support the hundreds of small businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs seeking to innovate. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
In Southern California, 3 bear cubs were rescued from the wild after their mothers died. They will stay at a wildlife protection facility until they're old enough to leave.
The California Department of Fish and Wildlife rescued 3 black bear cubs and brought them to the San Diego Humane Society's Ramona Wildlife Center on Monday. 2 of the cubs, about 5 months old, were orphaned after their mother was killed by a civilian while foraging for food near a cabin in Valley of Falls in the San Bernardino Mountains. The 3rd cub was found near Lake Arrowhead, where its mother was believed to be hit by a car. bear cubs usually stay with their mothers for the first 2 years of their lives. The cubs will stay at the center for proper nutrition and to practice their natural skills before being released in the wild again.
Now to NTD's Thomas Christian for the Sports Roundup.
I'm Thomas Christian, giving you the California Today Sports Roundup.
Juan Soto bet heavily on his own talent and health by turning down a massive long-term contract extension with the Washington Nationals. He then went on to the Home Run Derby at Dodger Stadium in Southern California and showed why he almost certainly can't lose. Soto won the Derby for the first time Monday night, holding off Seattle Mariners rookie Julio Rodriguez 19-18 in the final. The 23-year-old Soto hit 53 total homers, beating each of his 3 opponents by 1 homer, while hitting second each time in the midseason Power Showcase. Soto was locked in at the plate even after spending an hour earlier at Chavez Ravine, answering repeated questions about his possible departure from the Nats after turning down a $440 million offer. With a big celebratory bat flip after the final homer dropped into the stands, Soto became the second youngest home run derby winner in baseball history, just by a single day. At 23 years and 266 days old, Soto was only 1 day older than Juan Gonzalez when he won in 1993. Soto hit a 482-foot blast to right center while beating Cleveland's Jose Ramirez 18-17 in the first round, and then got past 42-year-old Albert Pujols 16-15 to reach the final. Soto hit the winning 415-foot homer with 20 seconds of bonus time to spare, then whipped his bat in the air before being swarmed by other Dominican All-Stars. His homers traveled a total of 5.41 miles. Soto earned himself the $1 million grand prize, which is a whole lot more than his $700,000 salary this season, and another highlight on his resume as his time with Washington possibly nears an end. The Los Angeles 2028 Olympic Games have finally announced their schedule. The opening ceremony of the 2028 Summer Games in Los Angeles will be held on July 14th, and the Games will conclude on July 30th, Games organizer LA28 announced on Monday. The LA28 Paralympic Games will kick off on August 15th and close August 27th. The LA28 Games will mark the 3rd time the Games have been held in the Southern California city, after previous events in 1932 and 1984. This will be LA's first time hosting the Paralympic Games. Organizers have said the use of existing stadiums as well as college dormitories to house athletes and media will help keep costs down and reduce the environmental impact. International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach said he was impressed by the progress and creativity of the organizers, including LA28's $160 million investment to support youth sports in Los Angeles.
That's all for today's California Sports Roundup.
That's all for tonight. You can join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. If you have any news tips or ideas for our show, or just want to let us know how we're doing, our email is california.today@ntd.com. I'm Lang Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.